With that, we have the captain's chair.
All right, well, good afternoon. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to weigh in with our recommendation. We've spent a lot of time looking through and evaluating the options on the table, as well as some other alternatives. And we won't, in the interest of time, go through all of those potential options that we've dismissed, but we certainly will spend some time exploring options 1 and 2. Ultimately, our recommendation is that we should acquire 100% of Pierce Co. Marry it with Portfolio Co. in order to really leverage some of those synergies, not sell to Silver Capital, but instead begin building value immediately with a plan to sell in 5 years. And our recommendation will result in an expected return of 27.5%. So we'll be walking you through how we intend to build value, as well as our exit strategy in order to achieve that return. So why did we dismiss option 1 and choose not to take a minority stake in Pierce Co? We have some serious concerns with the management. When you're going into a situation like this, you really have to have supreme confidence in the management, and we really don't have that for Pierce Co. Jack and Gina have expressed that they want out. They represent 70% of the ownership. So we have a very unmotivated management. Dan has expressed he's still interested to be involved, but the reality is he just doesn't have the experience. And so we also would be in a situation with limited control. And if in 3 to 4 years Dan decides he wants to go down another path, we'd really have some challenges there trying to work together. We have some negative history with the current sales director at Pierce Co. So there would certainly be some friction there, and it would create additional challenges that would really add to the complexity and difficulty of trying to work toward a common goal. In addition, this option really does deviate from our core business plan. We are a company that does not typically get into these minority stake situations. We've tried it recently, it went very badly, and our limited partners are pretty frustrated, and we really have to take that into consideration. So when we account for those risks, we're looking at a return that is below our hurdle. So really, the concerns and risks do outweigh any potential return that we get with this option. So if we are going to acquire Pierce Co, at what price? We have valued them at just over $140 million. Now, if we could get them for that price, that would be great. We'd be looking at a return upwards of over 29%. Sounds great. Maybe more realistically, we think we could probably get them for $165. That's where that 27.5% return comes in. And then we also wanted to look at what point are we just going to walk away from this deal. And so our recommendation is really not to go below 25.5%. We don't want to skirt so close to our hurdle because there are other variables that we'll be walking you through here later. But our walkaway price is $195.
Kendall?
Yes, sure.
Are you recommending that we make a $140 million offer, or are you recommending $165 million?
Based on the value, we would like to go lower than 165. Now, we would need to consider what negotiation we have on the table, potential to walk away on their part. Realistically, we might end up somewhere between the two, but for expected situation here is 165. So where are we going to come with that 165? We're looking at $63 million in debt.
Can we talk a little bit more
Sure.
evaluation? When you came up with that, what were some of your assumptions in terms of synergies, exit multiples, and capital structure? Maybe you're going to get to this, but.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we can
We
address it now.
do get to that a little bit later. I'm sorry, we do get to that a little bit later. But the exit multiple specifically is 7. We have growth rates of approximately over the
So
5-year average of
exit
8%.
multiple is 7, and so 165, what's the multiple there?
I believe that it is approximately 6.
Okay, so, okay,
Yeah, I didn't
For
remember.
getting it, it's a 6.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So with a price of 165, we're looking at 63 million debt, 102 million in equity, which a portion of that will be the cash we have on hand with Portfolio Co., and the balance will come from a cash infusion through PE Shop. So with that, Brad's now going to walk us through how we will go about building value in order to achieve those returns.
Can I ask you on your debt, what did you assume your interest rate was on that then, in doing your analysis?
It's 14%.
How did you feel about that? As compared to the minority analysis, which is a much cheaper deal?
Well, actually, I think when we analyzed the minority deal, we ended up using 14% as well for the level of debt on.
You know, the grandfather piece?
No, oh, I'm sorry. For the grandfather piece, I believe it was, I want to say 6.5 or 8. I don't have it with me right now, but it was on top of the existing debt for the additional debt to equity that PE Shop would have to bring to purchase Pierce, the 49% part.
Yeah, we can certainly take a look too at our models later and get back to you on that.
It's tough buying a company in this business environment, that's what we're here for today, but it's also tough selling a company. Do you see the sellers participating in the debt? The Pierce family? Or is all your debt outside?
And a seller note if you're familiar with that.
I mean, primarily, what we would hope from this is that we're able to offset some of the costs through a purchase price. So if they are looking to sort of have us take on more of the burden of that debt, we will have to account for that in what we're doing from a seller price perspective. On the flip side, if they're looking to parlay into what they'd like to help us with, then obviously that's reflected in where we're going to go from the purchase price standpoint.
Okay, for 165, you said that's a 6 multiple, so that means it does 27.
It's 28 actually.
Okay, so you're assuming synergies then?
Yes.
Okay, how do you feel about the synergies?
We're actually, that's part, I think that's the next part.
Okay.
Absolutely. So basically, the way we sort of approached it was that when we take, from a building value perspective, as we enter stage 2 of this monstrous plan, what we want to do, and it doesn't take a genius to tell you, is that we either increase revenue or we decrease costs. Ideally, what our plans will propose is that we do both simultaneously. When we look at how we increase revenue, a lot of it is through advertising sales, through leveraging the consumer data that we have, and through realizing expected subscriber growth. On the flip side of that income statement, when we look at how we're going to go ahead and take care of savings, we look at obviously the expected selling, general, and administrative expenses. We look at cost of goods sold, and then our CapEx synergies that we're hoping to parlay into this deal.
Don't you think a larger company would have some pricing power too?
Absolutely, absolutely.
You didn't do that in that, correct?
It's part of the subscriber. And so basically what we do when we look at the advertising sales, one of the most startling factors is the average revenue per user, which takes into account everything. And what we want to do when we take PureScope combined with Portfolio Co., we have a much wider audience now that we can use on a cost per impression basis, on an advertising sales basis, that we can parlay out to our prospective purchasers. At the same time, from that angle, we hope to upsell our unique accounts. So take those in the Portfolio company market. They now have the new 60,000 user base in PureScope's market that we can have sort of as a one-stop shop. And the same goes for Portfolio Co's companies who are with PureScope. What we plan to do with that is phase it in through the life of subscriber growth. And where that comes into play is that we felt as though the initial subscriber growth was not high enough as it was projected. So we took a chance on this one and implemented it at an incremental growth rate, somewhere between 1% and 2% over the life of combined co. When we take everything into one package deal, you're looking at a total initial subscriber base of 240,000.
Just to be clear, you're saying those numbers are in addition to the portfolio code statement that was.
Yes, exactly. The way we sort of valued our growth numbers were that because there would be synergies within the company and how they would go ahead, use their customer acquisition costs and things of that nature, we'd be able to experience a higher than expected return on subscriber growth.
If we don't realize those numbers, what is the outcome we said, it's still 5.
Yeah, well, I mean,
What's our internal rate of return we don't?
we're going to touch on exit strategy in an absolute worst catastrophic case, and it's still going to be a number that will blow you away. So it's a positive thing from that angle. The way we sort of approach the subscriber growth is through our introductory offers. We need to do something when we approach the cable industry. It is something that there is loyalty to, and that there is some sort of equity in what people are involved in. Our whole plan behind this: get in front of people, get inside their homes, and make the switching costs far outweigh their desire to leave us at any point in time. And from there, we continue to positively move revenue per user. So we next move on.
Take into consideration all the iPad and the access over the internet to wireless internet to movies, etc. How did you factor that into your subscriber base growth?
We did look at different technologies and stuff like that with friends. We prioritized our value bill differently. That's certainly something that we can look into in the future, especially voice over internet protocol, things like that. It would be more of an initial investment, laying fiber optic cables along our infrastructure already, but that is certainly something that we could explore.
And so sort of the final piece to this entire puzzle of revenue generation and value build is how we leverage the data that we have as now a far larger player in this marketplace. Something that we've never done before is look to use the data that we have and sort of take that mountain and make money for us. It's not something that we see to be a massive undertaking on the front end. There will be some software implementation costs, things of that nature. But realistically, what we try to do here is use the system that TiVo has, where we're able to know exactly what types of cable opportunities people are looking for, and apply it to the model of done on the USA. And in doing that, take some of this consumer insight that we gain and make it to the point where we can absolutely know exactly where we're headed with people's recommendations and what they're looking for from their cable provider. So once all of that sort of parlays together into a well-described package, we look at a summary of our revenue impact. And the important point to note here is that consistently over the life of combined co, we are realizing in this expected case scenario positive cash flows for each year and at an increasing rate at the same time. The key to this is that there will be some things that are variable. There will be some issues that arise, things that we need to undertake, and simply will take us through that in the exit strategy. But the very, very key point to this is that everything is moving in a positive direction. We're looking at it from a very conservative approach, which means that there is significant room for growth. But at the same time, we are realizing that things will go our way if we follow the plan that is put in place. And with that, Simple will take us through how we take care of the most crucial part of our step, how we get out and sort of make the final bang for the buck.
Great, by the way, a couple of people on the panel here were kind of upset you didn't call them geniuses, because that's all right.
You guys do it. I didn't take it from.
So we explored several exit strategy options. Ultimately, our recommendation is to sell Combined Co. to a competitive strategic partner in 5 years. There are some potential risks that we took into account. First, we have our acquisition price. Are we going to be able to hit it at 165? We ranged it from 140, which is the value of Pearsco around, to 195, which is our walkaway price. We also took a look at growth rates. These can also vary. Value build revenue that Brad went through, those were the totals